Andrew's face turned beet red with embarrassment at the suggestion as she pulled the diaper up between his legs and refastened the tapes. Then she picked him up again and deposited him back in the playpen whence he came and left him on all fours as she had found him. Andrew's tiny erection disappeared in disappointment, and his latent sexual urge was replaced with another that was more common to humans who possessed bodies his age. The longing for the strange woman had only increased by her handling of his body. His adult mind wanted her to stroke him and make love to him, while his infant ID wanted to be cuddled. Instantly a compromise of sorts was reached, and instead of ejaculating, his little pee-pee evacuated its bladder in sheer pleasure at the memory of her touch. Andrew's mind was appalled by his body's reaction to the gorgeous high school senior. What is she going to think of me? I've peed myself in front of her like an infant, he thought miserably. Andrew dropped his gaze to the plastic mat of the playpen so he wouldn't have to meet the women's eyes with his own. His shame at his body's reaction to Amber's touch was consummate. Keowastoen grinned at the byplay with Jimmy and thought, she's already started. It's really too bad his mind has already regressed into infancy. I could swear that he looks embarrassed by our discussion. Keowastoen's face became serious again as she replied to Amber's question. Oh, he can have a few tablespoons of solid food for dinner, but he's still on infant formula otherwise. You don't have to worry about feeding him anything but formula tonight if you don't want to. If you decide to feed him some baby food, there's a half-empty jar of Gerber pureed peas in the nursery refrigerator. You know where everything is, and you have the number of my cell phone if there's any problem. Here's the numbers to reach me if I decide to visit a friend's house. The combination to the front door is at the bottom. Don't forget to unlock the door if you decide to go outside. The door is spring-loaded and you won't be able to get back in if you don't unlock it before you go out. I've left a few diapers on the couch so you don't have to take him upstairs for a diaper change if he just wets himself. I won't be back until after 12 o'clock. There's a frozen pizza in the freezer for you and soft drinks in the refrigerator for your dinner. There's microwave popcorn and potato chips in the pantry in case you want to make yourself a snack. I bought a pint of onion dip for the potato chips and it's sitting on the top shelf of the refrigerator in front. You can't miss it. As for the diapers and baby things, everything is where it usually is. If you get bored, feel free to go through my videotape library in the cabinet by the TV to find a movie to watch. Jimmy's ostensible bedtime is 7 o'clock, but if he's fretful he can stay up later if you can't get him to sleep. Keowastoen chuckled and added, it isn't as if he has to get up to go to school tomorrow. Andrew grimaced at Keowastoen's remark about school. That had been the unkindest cut of all. The next day was scheduled to be his final exam in English. He should have been studying for the exam on the Sunday he went to visit her and had subsequently been entrapped into becoming an infant. If he had been attending his homework for school and had been studying the way he had originally intended that Sunday instead of impulsively gallivanting off to have coffee at Keowastoen's house, this would have never happened. Amber smiled at the thought of a little baby like Jimmy having to go to school and said to Keowastoen, okay. If there are any problems I'll call you. You don't mind if one of my friends from school comes over to help me study for a test tomorrow in biology, do you? I promise I won't let him eat you out of house and home. Just the pizza you've left me, and maybe the popcorn and chips, okay? Keowastoen smiled crookedly and replied, just for your personal information, the liquor cabinet has got a Yale 6-pin tumbler lock on it and I've got the only key in my purse. The locksmith who installed it told me that it has mushroom-shaped pins that make it almost impossible to pick. The witch's journeyman grinned again at Amber's protests that they would never attempt to break into her liquor cabinet and said, I was once your age too, remember? Don't take it personally. You're not the only babysitter I've had here. Some of them get into everything. I just wanted to make the ground rules clear. Now before I leave I need your friend's name and phone number just in case anything should happen. As the owner of the house, I'm responsible whether I'm here or not. Okay, agreed Amber brightly and scribbled her boyfriend's name and phone number on a slip of paper and handed it to Keowastoen. Keowastoen's smile became warmer as she absently tucked the slip of paper in a pocket and said, he's welcome to the soft drinks in the refrigerator and there's iced tea mix in the pantry. You can make coffee if you want. There's cream in the refrigerator. If he won't drink any of the things I've mentioned, then he can have water from the tap. Unless, of course, you want give him. Give him what? Amber asked, interested in what might be left. Keostoen grinned wickedly and said, the only other thing to drink in the house is baby formula. If he wants formula, then by all means give it to him. But I doubt he'd like that even if you did hold the bottle for him. Well, that's everything. Give me a call if you have any problems. Bye. She leaned down and said to Jimmy, bye-bye Jimmy. Can you wave bye-bye for Aunt Krystyn? No. Andrew gave her a pouting look and refused to honor her request. It was bad enough that she had turned his body into a baby, but he didn't have to behave like an infant to please anyone. Keostoen gave Amber a sad look and said, he's a bit slow if you know what I mean. Andrew's mouth dropped open in shock at the blatant lie that Keostoen had told about him. There was nothing wrong with his mind. It was his body that she had changed. If he had been able to control the muscles of his larynx, he'd have defended himself verbally on the spot. As it was, all he could do was utter meaningless syllables and baby noises. Krystyn shook her head in mock sorrow and said, his poor mother. No wonder she put him up for private adoption. He's one of those special babies that I specialize in handling, you know. The poor little thing has the same rare congenital condition that all the little boys have that I place with adoptive mothers. The disease makes it impossible for them to mature beyond infancy. I've made it my mission in life to find homes for little babies like him. Poor little Jimmy's mind stopped maturing the moment his body did. Most of the little ones with the same condition mature a little more than Jimmy did before he stopped growing. Remember little Alan? At first he seemed to have the mind of a 2-year-old before he started slipping backwards into early infancy. The poor thing's little body couldn't support a 2-year-old mind in a 10-month-old body, and the course of his terrible condition made it inevitable that he'd regress back to his permanent physical age. But he was a handful while it lasted, wasn't he? Remember how he got out of the crib and you called me in a panic because he was lost? I had just gotten down the street in my car when you called me on my cell phone. I turned the car around and came home immediately. I was driving up the street, only half a block away from the house, when I saw him crawling down the street on all fours just as fast as his little hands and knees would take him. I stopped the car and grabbed him, then strapped him in the baby seat in the back of the car. When I got home, I found the front door wide open. Little Alan had somehow managed to unlock the front door and had gotten out of the house all by himself. After that I went out and bought the expensive heavy oak sleigh crib with sides so high that a 4-year-old can't climb out of it when the rails are raised. The side rail locks are so complex and difficult to unlatch that even an adult couldn't unfasten the locks from the inside of the crib. Now when I put one of my babies in the nursery's crib, I'm sure that he'll never be able to escape like Alan did. Amber looked down at the unhappy memory and said, I'm so sorry that happened. I know I've apologized before, but I still feel badly about it. I spent the rest of the night sitting in front of the crib watching him to make sure he wouldn't get out again. When I think of what could have happened to little Alan, it makes me want to cry. I was surprised that you wanted to hire me as a babysitter after that. Keostoen nodded sagely and said in a mollifying tone, it could have happened to anyone, Amber. It wasn't your fault. Some babies seem to have the knack for escaping their playpens and cribs. I never blamed you. You never expected Alan to climb out of his crib and crawl down the stairs before getting out the front door. Besides, I threw the deadbolt on the front door myself that night before I left, so I know you didn't leave it open. How Alan got it open with his small stature, tiny hands, and infant mind will always be a mystery to me. The pile of coats I found in the hall when I got home with him was at least 10 feet from the door, so he couldn't have used them for a stepstool. Well, that's all water under the bridge now. Since I had a carpenter put in a new nursery door with the handle and latch assembly mounted at chest height for an adult, a 10-year-old would have difficulty turning the doorknob and getting out. For added security, I had a button combination deadbolt put on the front door instead of the single-cylinder deadbolt that Alan opened. It opens normally with a key on the outside, but to open it from the inside you have to depress the right sequence of buttons and hold them down while turning the knob to draw back the bolt. The springs on the buttons are much too strong for a little baby's fingers to hold more than one of them down at the same time. Unless you know the correct combination and have the finger strength of an adult, it's impossible to open that lock from the inside. Don't lose the phone number sheet I gave you, it's got the only copy of the combination to the front door in the house. Keostoen wasn't about to tell Amber that her hidden cameras had revealed the details of the whole incident on the videotapes that were running while she was gone. Amber had been sitting on the couch talking with one of her boyfriends on the phone when Alan had managed to pull down the coats on the hall hat rack and make a pile tall enough to reach the handle of the deadbolt. After that, he used his entire weight to flip the bolt back and twist the door handle open while pushing on the doorframe with one foot. Once he had the door open, he cleverly pushed the pile of coats over the slick flooring to leave no clue as to the means of his exit. If Keostoen hadn't had security cameras taping the entire episode, she truly would have never known how he did it. It was a remarkable performance for an adult mind occupying an infant's body. And thanks to Keostoen's upgraded security after Alan's aborted escape, it was never to be repeated. Keostoen picked up her purse from the couch and blew Jimmy a kiss, saying, "I'll leave you two to get better acquainted. From the way he's drooling over you, he's quite taken with you, Amber." Andrew looked down at his chest and realized that she was right. He was drooling. Damn this baby body, he thought to himself in frustration. She chuckled merrily and continued in a gently mocking voice before blowing him a kiss from the hallway. "Now Jimmy, remember that Amber is a good girl and I wouldn't want her to get in trouble. Just because I'm leaving the two of you alone is no reason to think you have a right to get into her pants. I saw how you looked at her TIDs and I know what you're thinking. If she decides she has to get into your pants for some reason, well, that's her privilege as your babysitter. Just lay back and enjoy it, little boy. If she decides that it's best to completely undress you and let you parade around for the night in the altogether, that's her business. You can't say a thing about it. As long as you're confined to your playpen where you can't make messes on the carpet, I don't care. Besides, you have nothing to be ashamed of. Your little wee-wee isn't exactly something that would make a woman passionate with desire. Her little finger is twice as big as what passes for your manhood. About the only pleasure you can give a woman aside from watching your cute little tush as you toddle around the room with your thumb in your mouth would be sucking on her TIDs. Andrew blushed furiously at her suggestions, hoping that she would leave soon before she said something that completely mortified him. Amber laughed out loud at Keostoen's incongruous instructions to her little charge. The way Keostoen talked, you'd have thought that she was lecturing one of her classmates that had somehow been turned into a baby.